Hello, welcome to Tea with Mommy. Today we have Robin Finnell, wardrobe stylist with the Doncaster collection. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start the show by asking you, how did you get started with fashion?
When I was a little girl, I was raised by a single mother, and she had a number of jobs, and one of them was selling Avon products. So we always had makeup samples, and it just kind of seemed to go along with fashion. There was a store where I grew up called the Showroom, and it was a discount store, but it supposedly had the latest fashions. So we would save our pennies working in my granddad's store or whatever and go and shop. And I think that was my first love.
So your granddad's store, did he own a shop?
Well, he owned a men's work clothing store, so we're not talking fashion there, other than I did get my first pair of overalls. And if you remember correctly, or way back when, now you're a little young, overalls and a t-shirt was the thing to wear. You cut them off, and that was a girl's thing.
So were you really young that you remembered this, or were you more closer to junior teenage years when you remember this whole visiting the shop? And
probably, yeah, 12 on up, preteen to teenage years. And then that just kind of manifested.
So through the years when your mom was selling, and I guess I'm just trying to tie it all in, because with having a sales background and having to really build your own practice through this, networking, all of that, which you do now brilliantly today, would you say some of that came from Mom?
Oh, absolutely.
Did she used to teach you stuff?
Well, she taught me about makeup, and I would watch her with her clients, so that would be part of it. I also have a fashion degree in merchandising that I got in Atlanta from the Fashion Institute of Atlanta.
Okay.
And that was, and then worked in retail. So yeah, I dabbled throughout the years.
Did you have that intention all along then, as a child, in terms of, because you said you studied fashion, you did retail, like was that a direction you knew you were going, or were you kind of led?
Actually, no.
Okay.
Actually, no. When I went to college, I was a pre-med major. Problem was, is I was working a job full-time, and actually that was in retail.
Okay.
And I also enjoyed playing cards in the town student lounge. So as you might guess, my grades were not destining me to med school.
Okay.
And so, you know, once that light bulb went off, I kind of changed gears. I had started off at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And at the end of my sophomore year, it was like, you know, this just isn't working. So I moved to Atlanta, attended the Fashion Institute of America, and finished there. It was a 6-quarter program. I finished in 5 quarters because I had some credits going in, and came back and decided that an associate in arts degree probably wasn't enough to get me employed where I actually could make a living wage. And so I went back to UNC Greensboro. I finished with a degree in psychology. When I graduated, I was promoted to an assistant department manager of the department store that I was working at. And from there, went to be a department manager I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
And was with them for a number of years, and then decided that being in the retail world just wasn't for me. It was every holiday, it was every weekend night, it was, you know, it's kind of hard to have a social life.
Right.
So I did a number of other things. I went into sales. I sold office supplies and business furniture for a number of years. And then I met my husband and got married, and we were building a home, and working was getting in the way, and I was getting a little burned out. So I stopped working for a while.
Right. And so when you stopped working, and did you have children? Is that why you decided to stay?
No, not for a while.
Okay.
I did a lot of volunteer work. I worked with the American Cancer Society. I then became a meeting planner.
Okay. Wow.
Worked with
I didn't know that about you.
It was something that interested me, and I hooked up with a group, Meeting Planners International. I met a woman who decided that she wanted to take me in and train me. So I was her gopher, her whatever she needed me to do. We did tours, we did meetings around the country. It was a lot of fun. And then we moved to the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay. How long ago was that?
20 years ago, last month.
Wow. It's a long time.
It is a long time.
Did you find work in the fashion coming into Doncaster? How did you discover them, or did another organization lead you to Doncaster?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We were new to the Washington, D.C. area. My son was 11 months old when we moved here. Of course, he learned to walk a week before the movers came. So that was a little bit of a problem, but you know, you deal with it. And we were living in temporary housing. My husband was taking the metro to work, so I had the car. And I noticed in the newspaper there was an article for this women's show at the old DC Convention Center. So took baby and stroller and we walked around, and I came across a booth called Suited for Change. There was one woman standing behind a single table, one little sign, and I asked her about Suited for Change. She explained it was a nonprofit that provided low-income women coming out of job training programs with clothing for their interviews and jobs. Well, gee, that was my background.
That's awesome.
I loved dressing women. So I signed up to be a volunteer. Started in January of 1995.
Okay.
Went for my training in a very poor part of DC one January night. Never told my husband the address because I know he wouldn't have let me go.
Oh, wow.
Parked across the street from a liquor store, and there were guys hanging out. And I just prayed that I could walk that half block to where I was going and get back home.
Wow.
And it worked out fine. And I have been volunteering there ever since.
Oh my gosh. So is there a process that you had to go through then? You said there was a training?
Yeah, just kind of, they're basically what clients are allowed to get, what do you do if you have a difficult client, just becoming acquainted with the rules,
Right.
the guidelines, and becoming familiar with the place where things were.
Why do you keep doing it? You said 1995. That's a long time to volunteer with an organization.
Well, I can tell you a few stories. The short story is, I love when women look in front of a mirror and all of a sudden their head goes a little higher, their shoulders go back, and you can see this confidence or this feeling that they haven't had before. Oh my gosh. I can tell you a couple of stories if you'd like.
Yes, please. We have time.
Early in my working with Suited for Change, I had a woman come in, and I was pretty sure she was homeless because she had layers and layers of clothing on.
Wow.
And you just kind of get these feelings after working with people for a while. She came in, she was tall, African American, and we chatted for a few minutes, and I remember pulling out a beautiful cobalt blue wool skirt suit. We figured out her size. I sent her into the dressing room. I tell this story a lot. And she comes out, and she's taken out some of her outer layers, taken off some of her outer layers. So she's got this jacket on, the skirt on, her long underwear is hanging out from the skirt. And it took me a while to convince her that I really needed to see how this suit fit her.
Right.
And that she really needed to take off her undergarments. Not all of them, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And she came out, and she looked in the mirror, and tears started pouring out of her eyes. I had no idea I could ever look this good again. And of course she started crying, I started crying. And then she looks in the mirror and she goes, well, I'm going to have to get my hair done.
That's amazing.
So I mean, all of a sudden, her whole thought process has changed. I think that was when I was really hooked. The other story that I'll share with you, and I think that was really the seed of my passion.
Right.
The other story was, Suited for Change has undergone some location changes, better and better throughout the years. There was a woman who came in, long blonde hair, and as we were trying on clothes, I noticed that there were cigarette burns all up and down her arms and up and down her thighs.
Wow.
And she told me that she had a doctor's appointment that morning. She had been diagnosed with diabetes, but that she and her children were in hiding with some friends, and it was more important for her to go to this interview to get a job than it was to see her diabetes doctor.
Oh my gosh.
She was putting her kids first.
Wow.
And of course we found something that was extremely suitable. But what happens is, and this is kind of the sad part, is that as a volunteer, I don't know what happens. Occasionally, somebody will come back because I'm a Friday girl. We kind of categorize ourselves as, the best volunteers are on Fridays, and I'm sure the Tuesday people feel the same way, or the whatever day of the week it is. But we have had some make their appointments to come back to the same volunteers, and they tell us about their job and how excited they are, and you know, that kind of thing. And so you do know about some of them, but then the ones that are really sad, like the woman, you know, I'm worried, did her husband find her? Was she able to find a job? Was she able to, you know, tame or control her diabetes? Those kinds of things.
I guess I get why you keep doing it, yeah.
It is, it's just, and I also get the great satisfaction of the same thing with my clients in my studio. It's just that lifting of the head and the shoulders going back that really makes a difference.
Well, that's a good segue into the fact that that happened to me in your studio. Robin is a sponsor of Tea with Melly, and thank you so much. The Doncaster collection has been wonderful to me. I'm wearing Doncaster now, but I remember the first time I felt like a little girl when you were dressing me. Things that we don't think about. I mean, I'm not a wardrobe stylist. I have no idea how to put things together. Just kind of wing it. But when you have someone who has the eye for it and looks and knows your body, there's a sense of relief that came over, and I'm like, I don't have to worry about the stuff that I don't know about, and someone else can tell me what to do.
Right.
Which is nice sometimes.
And you don't want me interviewing you.
That's great, thank you. Well, tell me again, how then did you find Doncaster? We talked about your passion and that you found Suited for Change, and that kind of revived or at least validated this love that you have. But how did you stumble upon Doncaster?
I was working at Suited for Change with another volunteer, and we worked really well together. Sometimes if she couldn't find something that would work with an outfit, I could find it, or vice versa. And you have to know that at Suited for Change, most all of the clothing is secondhand, and they're donations. So all of the size 6 jackets go on a rack, the size 8, etc. The blouse are on a separate rack. And so you're really shopping like you're at Salvation Army or Goodwill. Of course, we do a little bit more of a thorough, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, throwing out of, or selecting the pieces that need to stay and the other pieces that need to go. And the pieces that need to go on to another organization. Nothing ever gets thrown out unless it's in pieces and it's not wearable. So she and I worked really well together. We were at 2 different stages in our life, even though we were almost identically the same age. Her children, she was becoming an empty nester, and my son was 8 years old. I started late, she started early. And she says, I'm going to start this business, and I'm going to sell a line of clothing, and I'd love for you to partner with me. Well, my son's 8 years old. I haven't worked in a number of years, at least 8. And I said, you know, I'm not comfortable partnering. She says, well, then just work for me. So I did. And I worked for her, with her, for 6.5 years. And we changed clothing line from the other one to Doncaster. And one of the reasons that we went to Doncaster, same quality of clothing, wonderful quality of clothing, but they also offered petites and women's sizes. And petites and women, larger size women, have a difficult time finding quality clothing. I mean, you can go to Kmart, you can go to Walmart, but there really isn't a huge selection. And what this did was it expanded our audience.
Well, I'm glad you said the two things, petite and curvy.
Uh-huh.
That's me. And it is difficult to find. And then you have to get things custom. And usually when I buy pants, I have to get them hemmed. And so it's really nice to be able to go in and have something that you can pick out and do very little with.
Well, when you buy good quality clothing, and this is just something that has to be done, you need to have them altered. Alterations is a must. And you need to figure that into the price. Because once you have something altered, maybe you're taking in a seam in a jacket, or the back seam, or you're hemming it, or maybe, in my case, quite often I'll take a jacket that's long sleeved and make it 3/4 sleeve, because it's striped, and then the stripes, throw off the balance, and balance is really important. So an alterations lady then turns that garment into a custom garment.
I want to talk a little about that because, when you take a look at your body, and especially if you're not a specialist and you don't know what to look for. I mean, you see yourself every day, you're in your body, you don't think about shapes and sizes and what works. But when I was with you and you worked with me, being able to know, basically highlighting my assets and hiding things that aren't so, pretty, that's helpful. But talking about clothing and your eye as a stylist, how does that impact men and women when they're going to look for things? Colors, style, shapes. Can you talk a little bit about considerations?
Sure. When I work with a client, and I don't work with men, it's just I have no interest. And there are women who work, are stylists for men who absolutely love it and don't want to dress women. But I take into consideration her hair color, and is it her natural color? Because sometimes women will change their hair color that doesn't match their skin tone, and it makes it extremely difficult to dress them. So you take into consideration hair color. You take into consideration skin tone. Are they fair? Are they dark? Are they olive? Is there a yellow base to their skin? Is there a blue base to their skin? Their body type. There's 5 basic body types. Triangle, reverse triangle. A triangle is a woman is smaller on the top than she is on the bottom. And I always use this first because that's my body shape. I'm size 6 on the top, size 10 on the bottom. So what I have to do is to create some illusions to balance that. A reverse triangle is heavier on the top and smaller on the bottom. They generally tend to have a bigger bust line, wider shoulders, and then a narrow waist and bottom. Then there's the rectangular, where she tends to be symmetrical. The same size on top, same size on bottom, but she doesn't have a defined waist. There's the oval that has a smaller on the top, smaller on the bottom, but larger in the middle.
Okay.
So you get
so many different shapes. Yeah.
And then the last one is the hourglass. And everybody goes, oh yeah, that's the perfect body shape. She has her challenges too, but she does tend to be the same size on top and bottom, but has a defined waist.
Okay.
And so what you're doing when you are working with these various clients is trying to create balance. Almost everybody can wear a belt. You just have to wear it in different ways. You might not belt it on the outside. You might belt it under a jacket so that you just see the front, and then that gives you an illusion of a waistline that you may not have.
It's fascinating stuff.
So let's see, what else do I take into consideration? Their personal style. Are they romantic? Are they classic, conservative, bohemian? There's all sorts of, or a mixture of the two. I tend to tell people that I'm classic with a twist. I like to put a little twist on things. I'm a little conservative today, although I do have on my jewel belt. So all of those things go into it.
So we're talking about considerations of body types and shapes and sizes. We're talking about skin tones and colors, being able to illusion, right? Being able to use accessories, as well as even, I'm learning from you, even the shape of the pants, whether it's straight legged or, it's all these considerations, and when you don't know, you put it on. Usually we have an intuition about when we look in the mirror what makes us feel good.
Right.
But sometimes it's still hard. Like we think we look good, and then
right.
other people are like, what was she thinking? So How do people?
And that's a real hard thing for me to just keep my mouth shut sometimes when I'm out in public.
I can imagine. Plus, with all the stuff that's out there in magazines, and you're looking at fashion magazines, this new trend and that new trend, but what we forget is those new trends may not match us, may not match our body type and our body structure,
exactly
and we try and put on something because it's hot and it's, you know, the latest fashion, and then we look ridiculous in it. So, are there any other tips around choosing a wardrobe stylist?
Well, you want to choose somebody that you think you're going to get along with, somebody that you trust. I have clients that have been with me the entire time that I've been doing this. And it's a relationship business just like any other profession. Your clients trust you, and if they don't trust you, they're not going to stick with you. In choosing a stylist, sometimes it's intuition, sometimes you try them, sometimes you drop them. You know, I'm not for everybody, but I have a pretty good client base, and I'm very proud of it. And when I work with my clients, I keep a folder on what they buy. I have pictures of everything that they have bought from me, so that when a new collection comes in, I go to their file first. Yes, I'm supposed to sell sell clothing, because that's how I make my living, but I don't want to just sell clothing, because you can screw up their relationship that way. I go back to their file and I take a look and see what's there. And then I look at the new collection. And we have 4 collections a year. We have fall, winter, spring, and summer. And they come in July, September, January, and March. And I look at their file, and then I look at the new collection. What's going to work with what they already have? I want to build on that collection, or build on their wardrobe. And this will mix and match with that. And that's the way that I sell for the most part. And then if they want to branch out, that's fine. And I will tell them in front of a mirror, I don't like that. I think I did that to you.
Yes.
No, take that off. It's not going to work. And if you don't understand why, I will explain. I had a new client in May, and I had to explain to her because she really liked it. And then once I explained to her why it didn't look good, she goes, "Oh, I understand." I said, "So now can we take it off?" "Yes, okay."
Yeah, that's really great.
But it's building and mixing and matching your wardrobe, just like it's being able to go into a closet and organizing it so that you can actually find what's in there.
That's the one thing that I really appreciated about working with you, because it was really about being very efficient. Being very efficient with the pieces that you have, being able to mix and match and still have it look fantastic. It doesn't have to be that you go in and you buy 30 suits and outfits that, you know, completely belong to each other, but you have some basic tips about how many pieces. Can you talk a little bit about your rule of thumb?
Well, if say for example a professional woman, if she has 2 jackets, 3 bottoms, 3 blouses, a belt, if she can wear one, and most women can, and a few accessories, you can make 27 outfits.
That's right. That's what you're talking
Now, you don't want to do that every single day because you will wear your pieces out. But what you do is you take that and then you start adding pieces to that core wardrobe. Maybe a pair of white pants to lighten it up for summertime. If you buy the white pants, maybe you buy the white jacket, and then you've got a white suit, but that white jacket then, you know, matches back to a number of other pieces. You might add a dress that you have a jacket that already goes with it, that kind of thing, so that you're constantly building. You might, of course, you're going to want to add a great pair of jeans, because you don't want those jackets in your closet only going to work. You want them to, you want to get your wear out of them. And I talk about people buying the best quality that they can afford, because when you buy good quality, it lasts. If you buy inexpensive stuff, the first time you clean it, whatever that finish is that made that look really great, it's gone. And all of a sudden it starts looking limp. And it's not going to wear, and it's going to show wear, and it's going to pill, and it's going to, You know what I'm saying?
Right. You also spend a lot of time working with professional women, and I know you have some great tips about that, because and you also bought some things that you want to show us later with the upcoming collection. But I definitely want to talk about this because we're here in the Washington, D.C. area for those that are watching, and there are tons of entrepreneurs, business owners, but there are also top-level executives, female executives, all throughout the area. And you spend a tremendous amount of time speaking, going to events, being able to share with these women how to show up in the professional workplace.
Right.
So can we talk a little bit about that in terms of what you've noticed and the types of tips that you give when you're presenting?
One of the things that I notice, men, as a rule, who do business, wear a suit. Now, some men do a better job of wearing that suit than others, and the same holds true with women. You know, a properly cut suit really defines a man as far as presentation goes. Women these days tend to be a lot more casual. And so what I look at it as, does that woman, if you put the two side by side, does that woman look as professional as that man does in a suit? And 90% of the time these days, she doesn't. She's wearing a sleeveless dress. She's wearing a blouse and a pair of pants. She's wearing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It looks like she's pulled something out of her closet, sometimes better than others. And it could be well coordinated and everything else. But does she look the professional that the man does? And to me, most of the time, the answer is no. And you know, I spend a little bit of time at the Tower Club. And so I do a lot of watching. And I think the number one important piece for a woman is a well-fitting jacket. It covers her arms. And to me, distractions is what takes a person away from doing business. Distractions, especially if you're a visual person, and that's, you know, all of a sudden, if I see something that takes my attention away, all of a sudden I'm not listening to what you have to say. And that's not a good thing. Not if you're trying to conduct business.
Right.
Cleavage. It's far more acceptable for young people. And apparently younger guys don't notice it, supposedly. I find that hard to believe, depending upon, I guess, how much is showing. But if you're showing cleavage and you're a visual person, I mean, even I, as a mature woman, it draws my attention. It's like, God, nice cleavage. You know, nice bosom, whatever, you know what I'm saying. But all of a sudden my attention's been taken away from the purpose of whatever our meeting is, whether it's business or doing an event together or whatever it could be. It's a distraction.
And it's amazing how easily we get distracted, but we don't really consciously think about it, right? So then we wonder sometimes, and I think this happens with all of us, why this didn't go as well as it did. And it's usually, we're not thinking that it's our clothes or our hair, but it's really critical that we remember that, because a lot of it is visual. People see you come out of the elevator, like if you are at the Tower Club, and they have a certain perception of what you should look like when you come into the Tower Club. And then you show up, and people are probably, most likely, if not 100% absolutely, making a judgment call, even before they shake your hand.
It's exactly right. You have about 10 seconds or even less, and people have already made a decision. And when I speak, I talk about the fact that, you know, if somebody's coming across the room towards you, you have even longer to make a judgment. And you do. I mean, you just, all of a sudden, stereotypes or whatever. One of the other things that I talk about is grooming.
Okay.
It's so important. It is so important. You don't have to have a manicure, but you do have to have neat, well-trimmed, filed nails. Eyebrows, facial hair. All of those things can be a distraction. Of course, your hair should be cleaned. And every once in a while, you see somebody that you think, gee, I wonder when the last time she washed her hair was.
Wow.
Or his hair.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to point the finger at women, because it's not necessarily the case. But grooming goes a long, long way.
You have a thing for underpants. Can you talk
I
about
do.
that?
I have a huge thing for underpants. When we're dressing professionally, you have to start from the inside out.
Right.
And when I give presentations, I have this big slide, and it shows panties with ruffles on them, and it shows thongs that stick out above the
pants,
you know, the pads. And then I flip to the next slide where you see a woman walking away, and you can see the panty lines on her too tight of pants. And I tell people, think about it. You've just invested all this time making a connection, possibly a great business connection, and then you get up and you walk away. Is the last impression you want to leave with them your panty lines? I don't think so. It's really important.
Yeah. It's funny, but it is so true.
Funny.
I remember when you showed me that slide, I'm like, it absolutely is, because it's another distraction, another reason.
Big busted women have a very difficult time. And I understand, and I try to make light of it. I try to make things funny, just so that there's not tension. But big busted women, it's very easy for their chests to lay on their stomach. The problem with that is all of a sudden you've got even more stomach. And if you lift the bosoms up halfway between their elbows and their shoulders, then all of a sudden there's a waistline that they didn't know was there. And their clothes fit better. The bosoms are where the darts are, instead of, you know, fighting their clothing, that kind of thing.
And I think you should consider hiring her, because I have a funny story. When I was working with her, she just looked at me, she goes, "You've got to get better bras. You gotta pull those babies up."
It's
like,
true.
you know, yeah,
but you know what? Your clothing fits better. The other thing is when you launder your bras, what happens is the straps get loose, and then we forget to readjust them. So we really need to take a serious look at ourselves in the mirror and make sure. Now that's not been an issue for me. The only time I ever had boobs was when my milk came in when my son was born. It's true.
Love where the show's going.
Yeah, sorry. I'll keep it clean. But that was it. I mean, that was the only time that I ever could identify. But I do understand, and especially the women that I work with at Suited for Change, they come from a poor background. They probably have never been told because their mothers didn't know, their grandmothers didn't know. So we have that conversation. And I will reach in and take that bra strap and lift it up and show them, and it's like the light bulb clicks. It comes on.
It's just like having a mentor with everything. We don't know what we don't know.
That's right.
I mean, it's something that's so innate within us. We get up, we get dressed, we comb our hair a certain way, until we talk to a stylist that says, you've got to do something with this hair. And you're like, what's wrong with it? And then they do the change, you're like, oh yeah, now I know what was wrong with it. So that's a pretty big deal. Anyway, I know that you brought some wonderful designs collection that's coming out. And so I wanted to take a few minutes to give you some time to talk about that.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and get you some final thoughts and advice for people who are out there looking for a wonderful either wardrobe stylist or just some tips around what to look for.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and have our wonderful assistant here bring you this collection, this piece.
I just got back from Sarasota, where our national sales meeting was held, and we got to see the full runway show, just like every top designer, and it is a fabulous event. So what I did was I brought 6 outfits from my studio. Okay. This is the first one I brought is a mixed media suit. Now mixed media means that there's more than one fabric. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be whatever. This is a very featherweight quilted fabric that's matched with a jewel-toned tweed. And this is a fabulous suit for a professional woman. You can, of course, separate it. You can wear the skirt with a white blouse and a belt and make it a little more casual. You can wear the jacket with a pair of jeans. Of course, you could put the jacket with a pair of white slacks. You could put it with the same color in a different fabric. Still keep it professional. The buttons are fabulous. And I will use fabulous a lot because I think our collection is fabulous. But just the little treatment of the button with the screw top or in the middle just dresses it up. So that there's just a lot going on, but it's still a classic cut.
Yeah, I like it.
So it's still classic.
Okay. I hope everyone who's watching at home is taking notes when you go and contact Robin and get your pieces and all the other things that you can put together. Take lots of good notes because she's all about being able to be efficient. Okay, the next one.
Now the first two garments that I showed you, and I'm just going to hold this up just a little bit so that the pants don't drag the ground, are perfect for people with what we refer to seasons as springs and falls.
Right.
Because they've got undertones that the yellows tend to work better for them, the yellow undertone fabrics. Blondes in particular work with these first two. Blondes and redheads are fabulous.
I wouldn't have thought that, but okay, because of the orange, but that probably brings it out even
now,
more, right?
if you look at this orange on me, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, and I will get it. And I tend to avoid these like the plague for that very reason, because I know what my undertones are and the colors that look great on me. I love this because we've got two different colors going on, but in recent years, they have shortened the cardigan and lengthened the underpiece. And it's just a new style. It's fun, it's trendy, and it works on a number of people, especially those who are, tend to have a little bit less on top. It elongates them, gives a little bit more color underneath. It can also be slimming on the hips, especially if you're wearing a lighter color underneath, to have a darker color on top. And I love this because this is an illusion of a quilting, but it's very thin and it's featherweight. And I love the sheen against the mat of the knit. And then of course, I love the belt. Most of our belts come from Italy. They're fine leather. And I just think a belt, just like any accessory, really makes an outfit.
Yeah, I love belts, but you're teaching me how to wear it. That's a big thing.
And we'll continue to do that.
I love belts, but you have to know how to wear it and where to wear it, because obviously you won't look like a sausage. She told me that once.
So this color is Jasper. That's what they've named it this year. And then this is a persimmon.
Okay, Jasper persimmon. Okay, so then we'll move to the next one. There we go.
Now I've moved into a jacket dress. And jacket dresses have been around forever. They kind of go in, they go out. Somebody came into my studio and says, I can't believe you merchandised the jacket with the dress. The thing is that the younger people have never done that.
Right.
You know, they're all used to mixing and matching, and it's like, oh, so it's kind of a new look for them.
Okay.
And I love jacket dresses because I think they're very professional. When you get hot, you can take the jacket off. You've got sleeve.
That outfit reminds me so much of my godmother, because she's in her 70s now, and when she was growing up, it was all over the place. You know, the jacket, the dress, and very classic.
And then this is a new look, the medallion look. You're going to see a lot of jewels. Generally, something like this tends to be more reserved for evening. You're going to see a lot more of this during the daytime. And I didn't bring the other necklace. I probably should have, but we're talking sparkly jewels all over the top, and it's kind of meant for daytime. And I don't know if you can see the fabric, but this is a jacquard, and it's a red on red tone. It's a beautiful European fabric. Our fabrics come from the same mills as Chanel, Gucci, Balenciaga, all of the top designers, the Italian mills, French mills. There's a fabulous mill in Brazil, World Cup Brazil right now. And they're the same fabrics. The thing is that you're getting them directly instead of getting them from a department store where they have to have a huge markup. So our price points are a lot better than these top designers.
Yes, absolutely.
But anyway, the other thing I wanted to point out is this particular, I don't know if you can tell, the seams are done on the outside. So it's just an added detail, and that's something that we're known for, is our details. And the more details in a garment, of course, and the higher price the fabric is, the more expensive the garment. But you want to notice those things. They could have put in a simple red zipper, but they chose to put in a gold one instead. It dresses it up.
Okay, looks nice.
It's just another way of putting jewelry more bling.
On the piece, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we've got 3 more pieces to go, so it's wonderful. And I love that you brought different colors.
Well, what I did was, and that particular red's a standard red. Almost everybody can wear that. Now now what I've done is I've moved to something that's a little bit more what I would be able to wear in the color tones. Yes, some blondes can wear them. It just depends upon their skin tone, how strong their skin tone is. But these are the jeweled tones. And I love this 2-piece dress because peplums have been in for a couple of years now. And what they've done is they've done this very subtly. It's not going to stick out like, a little scoop here, but it's a very subtle peplum. And then they matched it the same on the hemline. And I absolutely love that detail. There's tons of princess seaming throughout. And then we topped it with a gunmetal jeweled belt. And I think this is perfect for daytime. I think it's extremely professional. And I can see a CEO wearing this to a board meeting or every day to work, or an administrative person who wants to look like she's ready to move up.
That's great.
And that's something that I always recommend is, if you're looking to move up in your company, dress the part.
That's great.
Make yourself look like you're the natural person to be chosen.
Okay. That's a really pretty color. What are you calling that color?
I call it cobalt, but if you hand it back to me, I'll look at it again. Oh, I should know this by now. I can't read the...
That's all right. We'll call it
That's all
cobalt
right.
for now.
We'll call it cobalt for now. Sorry.
We'll call it cobalt for now.
Oh, that's funny. Now this is a dress I've already ordered for myself.
Cool.
So I had to bring it. It is another mixed media. It's a leather inset, both on the front and you're going to see the little pinched part here on the back to make it fit the little plastic mannequin. It's a 3/4 length sleeve. So many women are not happy wearing a sleeveless dress because they're worried about the chicken wings or the flap on the back of their arms. And they made this with a 3/4 length sleeve, and a 3/4 length sleeve is flattering on almost everybody, as is a V-neck. So I love the fact that you've got leather in the middle, but then you've got a fine quality knit on the outside that's going to help shape and give definition. So it's come in. I haven't tried it on yet,
pretty cool one.
but I do need to take it to the alterations lady because she's going to have to shrink the top a little bit to accommodate my bottom. But I just love this. I think it's classic. I think it's professional, but it still has a bit of a twist to it.
It has a twist, a flair. You can go out and have a few drinks, and be social with it as well.
When women dress, they have to always consider their audience. Who is it that I'm going to be presenting myself to?
Right.
Now I brought it without bottoms just because it's a sweater set that I thought was fabulous. It's a basic cardigan and cami underneath. This is actually a faux leather.
Okay.
And faux leathers are just as hot as leather. But it's got such a wonderful texture to it, and I love the sheen. And then we put it with classic pearls to give it just a nice mix. But I can see this over a pair of winter white slacks. I can see this over, gray, camel. If you wanted to do a column of black, you could. But I just could see taking this in so many places. And once again, I think this is a very professional look without having to wear a jacket.
Right. So, thank you.
Thanks so much. Trusty assistant.
I want to talk about the color black for a second.
Okay.
You're a stylist, you know color. Does black work for everybody?
Absolutely not.
Okay, let's talk about that. Because I always hear, just wear black.
Yes.
Everybody can get away with black.
About 85% of the population can wear black. But those who can't, it washes them out. And that's actually true of any color that's not appropriate for you. And I hate to sound like I'm a dictator. You can wear this color and you can wear this color. But there are certain colors that will make you look ill or tired. And why would you want to look like that? And you could you're going to leave today and go walk around and you're going to start noticing that, I think. Because some people don't, you know, they might know that something's wrong, but they don't know what it is. And quite often a color, or the wrong neckline, or a style that's not appropriate for your personality will just make you look weird. Now there are women who don't care about style, and that's okay. And I actually show them on my slide that they're actually in a box. I mean, they're hiding under a cardboard box. They're using clothing to cover their bodies. And they don't care. And that's okay, because these are really great people who are out doing wonderful things. But if in fact you do care about style, you want to do the right style. And if in fact you're out making presentations, then why wouldn't you want to look your best?
So what does your day-to-day look like? You have your studio, which is in the McLean area in Tysons. What does your day-to-day look like as an entrepreneur? How often do you see clients? I just want to talk, you know, switch gears from the collection to you as an entrepreneur. For those that are watching who might be interested in choosing this path as well. Maybe they are totally in school now or in some graduate level trying to understand fashion and merchandising. What's your day-to-day look like?
Okay, well first of all I would say, since you brought that up, that I'm always looking for people to work with me.
Yes, of course.
Somebody who has a good fashion sense, but also can bring their own book of business. I can't give away my clients, but I would love to grow the business, and growing it together with somebody else is a ton of fun. So my day-to-day life, I'm not a morning person. I think I've shared that with you before, but I'll be working at 11:30 at night. So I generally start off my morning with exercise. I have a dance aerobics class that I go to twice a week, and I have a yoga class that I go to twice a week. And the only time I interrupt those is if I have a client who really needs to come in the morning. And of course my clients have to come first. I'll run home, shower. If I don't have a lunch somewhere, because I'm always out networking, or a client in the studio, those are going to be the two places that I'm going to be. And I like working with my clients. I will have a 7 o'clock appointment in the evening, especially for my business clients. I used to say I'd never work on Saturdays. Well, that's kiss that one goodbye.
Right. We work together on Saturdays.
Saturday mornings are prime time for my professional women. And it's also one of the 3 days that my alterations lady can come to the studio. Oh. So if I've got a client who's picking up pieces, I want my alterations lady there, so that when she tries that on and goes, oh, that doesn't look right, and I go, okay, Con, I need you to come over here, and we're going to take this in and take this in, and we're going to hem this. Sometimes hemming it 1 inch will make all the difference in the world on how it fits your body, or how it looks, or the proportions. And all of a sudden they go, oh yeah, I do like this. Now I remember why I bought it. Then I come home. If I've been networking, I will try to respond to the cards that I have gotten and tell them how nice it was to meet them, reach out, see if they're interested in chatting, if they'd like to come by the studio. I don't ever want anybody to feel obligated. I love them to come to my studio though, just so that they can see what I do.
Right.
There's never an obligation to buy. I don't want somebody to feel like they have to buy something, for the simple reason that if they buy something that they don't love, or they spent more money than they wanted to, or whatever the negative feeling is towards that object, every time they see that, they live that experience with me. Right. I don't want that happening. Right. I want to leave a positive impact on them. But I love them to come by the studio so that they could see. Because if in fact my clothing's not for them, it might be for somebody that they know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to me, that's fabulous, because ultimately, you know, we're all trying to make a living, but we want to do it on a positive basis, and we want to have a positive impact, you know, on our clientele.
Right, and if your clients fall in love with you, I mean, it's easier when they send you people and say, you've got to talk to Robin, she's amazing, she's wonderful. And it's not just about the collection or clothes, but it really is about that relationship specifically with you and how you make them feel. So, any last final tips around dressing yourself or things to look for?
One thing I would say is, if in fact you're just starting out, or you're trying to put together a wardrobe, you know, buy by a plan. It's so easy to buy a piece here, buy a piece there, and what you end up with in your closet is a bunch of pieces, and a lot of them don't go together.
Right.
Women tend to wear 20% of their clothing 80% of the time. So you've got 80% of your clothing that's taking up closet space. Why is it in there? Should it be in there? Does it fit? Is it your style? Is it your color? Does it need to be repaired? And the reason you're not wearing it is because there's a seam out, or, you know, I mean, all of you all of you can understand exactly what it is I'm talking about.
Right. As soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, that's me.
Yeah, and as a result, my goal is to have people with closets that work for them.
Yeah.
And I do go into women's closets and help them organize and put them together by color so that they can find things. And I separate their suits because they don't always have to be worn together. The jackets can be worn with other things. And if in fact you see your jacket separated, you may do a quick perusal of your closet and go, oh, that actually goes with that. I'm going to wear that today instead of something else. And so I would say if in fact you're not really confident in your purchasing power and knowing what's right for you, give a stylist a chance to work with you. Would I love it to be me? Oh, absolutely. Would I love for you to fall in love with Doncaster? Of course I would. But give somebody who's in that profession an opportunity, because I really think it can really ramp up your own personal style, and you're going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah. Robin, some tips around age appropriateness. Are there rules? Do you have any rules?
I think there's some rules. I don't know that they're hard and fast, but you do see women looking like their teenage daughters. And I like to think that women have gotten past that. Now, I remember when I was a young mom, and I was an older mom with a young child. So I was wearing these, you know, cartoon socks and stuff like that. And all of a sudden I kind of caught myself. And I'm like, you know, Robin, you're not a young mom, and this is a little silly. And so I had to kind of change that. You know, as far as mini skirts, can older women wear them? If they have the great legs and it's proportioned and I think it's age appropriate, I think that there's not as much a hard and fast rule as there are, like I had indicated, you know, color and style and personality and that kind of thing. I don't want to see an 80-year-old woman with a mini skirt. No. I wear my skirts above the knees, and I am well above 50, but I think it's more proportion. I think you can have the illusion of wearing a short skirt without having it all the way up to your bum. I think you can have the illusion of some of the trends and styles. You have to be conscious of your good parts and your bad parts. So, you know, we all know what our assets and our, you know, things we don't particularly like.
Right.
And what we want to do is we want to emphasize our assets and de-emphasize our parts that we don't want to show.
And typically, do your clients go online and look for the Doncaster collection and find things they like and then contact you? Or are you always proactive and being on the lookout for things and being able to say, oh, this would look good and so and so?
All the above. We do have a web presence, but all of our pieces are not online.
Right. Okay.
And there's a reason for that. Shopping online, you buy something, you tend to send it back. When you work with a stylist, a Doncaster consultant, we know our product better than anybody else. And we're going to be able to tell you, yes, this is good for you, yes, this is the right style for you, or no, it's not, or this is what we need to do in order for this to be the right style for you. So we have an abbreviated, they call it a curated version of our collection online. I think it's 36 pieces.
Okay.
Well, like I told you, we have 200. So you're going to get an idea as to what we have, but you're not going to know the whole collection. And it's so much fun to come in and look and touch. The other thing is that you can't see, you can't feel the quality of the goat suede.
Right.
Or the leather.
That's
Or
true.
you can't feel the lightness of this quilted fabric. I have a fabric that looks like leather, and it's fabric, and it's light as a feather. So it's just kind of you got to come in and touch and feel and try on. Play dress up.
Well, can you let us know how to reach you? What's the best way to find you, whether online or contact you and visit your studio?
The best way to reach me is my email address. I'm scared to death to put that out there, but I'm at RB Finnell, which is F like Frank, INNELL at Gmail. I do have a Facebook page. It's called Fabulous Feminine Fashion. I have a Facebook page, Robin Finnell, and I'm on LinkedIn.
That's great. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It went by pretty quickly, I
It
think.
did go by quickly.
And it was a pleasure to see the upcoming line, and I hope that a lot of people out there will contact you and have interest to learn more about their own colors and style and preferences. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, and this is just a glimpse. I have a couple of 100 pieces back in the studio.
There you go. So check out her studio, everybody, and thank you again. Thanks so much for tuning in to Tea with Melly, and I will see you again next time.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.